Welcome to another episode of the Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are always and forever till the death, engineered to win. Speaking of death, today we're going to talk about a global pandemic that you might have not even heard about. This global pandemic took place between September 13th and October 8th of 2005. Even I didn't hear about this global pandemic. Well, let's get into it and find out some more. So, where did this global pandemic take place that nobody heard about? Caused a lot of deaths, but I didn't see anybody getting affected, getting quarantined, nothing like that. Nothing like we saw just a few years ago, right? Well, this global pandemic took place virtually. Virtually? How can a global pandemic take place virtually? Well, let's get into it and find out some more. All right, so this pandemic was called the corrupted blood incident. Corrupted blood, all right? So the corrupted blood incident, also known as the World of Warcraft pandemic, took place between September 13 and October 8th, 2005 in World of Warcraft, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game developed by Blizzard Entertainment. When participating in a boss battle at the end of the raid, player characters would become infected with a debuff that was transmitted between characters in close proximity. While developers intended to keep the effect of the debuff in the boss's game region, a programming oversight soon led to an in-game pandemic throughout the fictional world of Azeroth. That sounds a little familiar to me. World of Warcraft introduced the game region of Zul'Gurub on September 13th. The boss of the region, Haikar, the Soul Flayer, cast corrupted blood on raid participants. The debuff's effects expired when players defeated Haikar. Corrupted blood soon spread beyond Zul'Gurub as players reacted to the infection with panic, either fast traveling to heavily populated game regions or deactivating their animal companions. When those companions were reactivated, they still carried the debuff, becoming disease vectors, while non-playing characters became asymptomatic carriers. Sounds familiar? Player reactions to the corrupted blood pandemic varied. Some provided aid by healing players or warning them of the outbreak zones, while griefers intentionally contracted the debuff to spread it across World of Warcraft. After several failed hotfixes, vaccines, Blizzard ended the pandemic by performing a hard reset, and a later patch prevented companions from contracting corrupted blood entirely. Although it was the result of a software bug, the corrupted blood incident gained attention from World of Warcraft players and disease researchers. Blizzard developed intentional in-game pandemics in two expansion sets, Wrath of the Lich King in 2008 and Shadowlands in 2020. Epidemiologists, oh God, too many syllables. Epidemiologists, meanwhile, took interest in how MMORPGs, unlike mathematical models, could capture individual human responses to disease outbreaks rather than generating assumptions about behavior. Let's dig into it some more. So the background. Blizzard Entertainment released World of Warcraft, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, on November 23rd, 2004. In North America and Australia, and a European release followed in February 2005. As a role-playing game, players create their player characteristics by choosing among various fantasy races, character classes, and allegiances to one of the game's in-universe faction. So I've never played World of Warcraft, so this is all news to me. I've heard people play it. Like I remember at one job, they would play it on their lunch break. They'd bring their humongous laptops and they would just run around in World of Warcraft, right? That was not for me. All right. So where are we? All right. So after creating their characters, the players begin a quest in the fantasy world of Azeroth, where they may fight monsters either alone or together with other players in parties. For larger dungeon crawls, players may create a raid group of up to 40 characters. Player characters gain experience levels through the completion of quests and the defeat of non-player characters, such as monsters or dragons. Gaining experience levels, higher level armor, and improved weaponry then allow player characters to participate in more dungeon crawls. World of Warcraft was immediately popular amongst release, with over 240,000 subscribers within 24 hours of its North American launch. By March of 2005, the subscriber base had reached 1.5 million individuals. By the time of the Corrupted Blood incident, World of Warcraft had over 4 million subscribers, corresponding to $700 million annual revenue stream.
Thank you for
it was
your patronage.
Significantly more popular than any other MMORPG of the time. EverQuest 2 had approximately 500,000 subscribers in September 2005, while The Matrix Online struggled to acquire a mere 50,000 subscribers within 3 months of its release. To retain their subscribers after players finished all the content that was available upon World of Warcraft release, Blizzard maintained a team of developers to regularly add new content such as raids. So the incident in question, Zul'Gurub raid and pandemic origins. Blizzard released the first World of Warcraft raid on September 13, 2005, when the jungle region of Zul'Gurub was added to the game's open world. The boss of this region was Haikar, the Soul Flayer, who would cast a debuff on players called Corrupted Blood. After Haikar cast Corrupted Blood on one player in the raid group, the debuff would be transmitted to other player characters in close proximity, maybe within 6 feet of proximity. The effects of the Corrupted Blood were intended to last for 10 seconds or until the player defeated Haikar, whichever came first. One of Haikar's healing mechanisms was to temporarily stun a raid party and drain their blood. Blizzard developers intended for players to defeat Haikar by first weakening him with attacks and then exposing themselves to the Corrupted Blood. When Haikar attempted to heal himself, he would become exposed to the debuff and die from the effects of Corrupted Blood. Developers had intended to limit the effect of the debuff to the Zul'Gurub region, but several factors led to its spread throughout the in-game universe. First, World of Warcraft enabled fast travel, which allowed player characters to quickly move to large population centers from more remote regions like Zul'Gurub. Sometimes while still under the effects of corrupted blood. Some players, unaware that the effects of the debuff would expire upon defeating Haikar, reacted to their character's infection with panic and would fast travel out of the dungeon while still carrying the contagious debuff. Aww. A programming oversight further contributed to the spread of the in-game pandemic. Players with animal companions could protect their pets during the boss battle by placing them into a type of suspended animation mid-fight. Pet companions could contract corrupted blood after noticing that their pets had become infected. Many players would place the animal into its suspended state to protect them from death. These pets were subsequently reactivated after the completion of the boss battle, but developers had forgotten to include an off switch that would recognize the conclusion of the raid and remove the debuff from the companions. Players who defeated Haikar would subsequently fast travel to markets in urban centers in order to repair their damaged armor and weaponry. They then reactivated their infected pets who became disease vectors, allowing corrupted blood to spread beyond players involved in the raid. Maybe they took a cruise ship to their destination and they were stuck on that cruise ship. Other NPCs could become infected with the disease, but they were incapable of dying and instead became asymptomatic carriers for player characters. Once it spread beyond Zul'Gurub, corrupted blood quickly became pandemic of Azeroth. The index case was never identified, but an early epicenter for the pandemic was in the Archimonde server, where a player summoned their infected pet in one of the Azeroth capital cities. Another outbreak soon occurred in Orgrimmar, the capital city of the Orcs, and in the dwarf city of Ironforge. There was no in-game cure for corrupted blood, which inflicted between 263 and 317 hit points of damage every 2 seconds. This level of damage could kill a character on average experience level between 60 and 90 seconds. Imagine that. You get infected and 60 seconds later, you're gone. You're out of here. While World of Warcraft player characters are resurrected after death, the items that the characters had acquired would become damaged upon revival, making character death inconvenient for players. I mean, if death only leads to an inconvenience, maybe it's not too bad in this fantasy universe. So, what were some of the player reactions and responses? The sudden arrival and spread of the corrupted blood pandemic created widespread panic among World of Warcraft user base. One player told the Washington Post, that the world chat would explode anytime a city fell. We kept a close eye not only on our guild chat, but on world chat as well to see where not to go. We didn't want to catch it. They should have worn a mask. Casual World of Warcraft players who had read about the incident on the news would log into their accounts to better understand the pandemic, promptly infecting their characters. Curiosity, eh? The in-game environment soon filled with the skeletons and corpses of player characters who had succumbed to the infection, and internet forums describe seeing hundreds of those bodies throughout Azeroth population centers lying in the street. All right, I added that part, but that's what I envision. One player described Azeroth as filled to the brim with corpses.
Interesting.
The streets literally were white with bones of the dead. Another posted that some servers had gotten so bad that you can't go into the major cities without getting the plague. And another less than like level 50 nearly immediately dies. Some players incorrectly speculated that the corrupted blood incident had been intentional, while developers intending for the Haykar boss battle to lead directly into a pandemic-based game event. Once players realized the scope of the pandemic, individual reactions to the infection varied. Some players whose characters possess healing abilities headed to major cities as impromptu first responders. Shout out to our first responders. But these characters often contracted and died from the disease as well. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Healing measures were largely ineffective as only one character class, Paladins, were capable of removing debuffs of corrupted blood's nature. And player risk reinfection almost immediately upon healing. More often, rather than removing the corrupted blood infection, healing characters merely kept characters alive and contagious, thereby prolonging the spread of the infection. Less powerful player characters, meanwhile, would stand at the edge of the infected towns, warning other player characters not to enter. Players transmitted information from afar by using the game's farthest reaching chat function, Yell. At least one player became an unofficial town crier, making announcements about the pandemic development in the open world's public space. Only players enacted self-quarantined methods, remaining in less populated wilderness areas of Azeroth rather than entering towns or cities where they risked infection. Although the pandemic did not extend to the real world, epidemiologist Nina Pfefferman noted that players seemed to really feel like they were at risk and took the threat of the infection seriously. Griefers, players who engage in bad faith multiplayer game tactics, take advantage of the corrupted blood incident to target and inconvenience other players. That should be illegal. That should be a crime. These players would purposely contract corrupted blood and travel to densely populated areas to further its spread. One griefer whose guild engaged in this practice told Wired that he did so because he was amused by the reaction of other players, saying, "It's just funny to watch people run away screaming." Pfefferman compared these players to Thyroid Mary, an asymptomatic carrier of the typhoid fever who resisted warnings and quarantines to infect others with the disease. Other players attempting to inform other players of the pandemic developments through forums and internet chats accidentally spread misinformation that increased the spread of corrupted blood. So let's check out how the developers responded and ended the incident. At approximately 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the afternoon of September 16th, a Blizzard staff member reported that the team was aware of the issue and working on it. So they started to create a vaccine. Vaccine. All right. While the company quickly became aware that the corrupted blood had spread beyond its intended reach, identifying and fixing the issue that led to the pandemic proved to be difficult. One of the first steps that Blizzard took to attempt containment of the virus was to institute a quarantine zone. Okay. Placing barriers around heavily infected areas. The effect that this quarantine had was limited as some players managed to bypass Blizzard's containment measures. Developers, meanwhile, faced difficulties in isolating and removing the virus from the pet companions, those pesky little pets, I tell you, that were driving its spread. Their two options for healing pets companions were to manually check every animal in the game universe for corrupted blood infection, or developing real hacky code that would automatically check for infection every time a companion was summoned. Blizzard attempted to put a stop to the pandemic with hotfixes, including restarting each game server on a rolling basis, but corrupted blood outbreaks soon reemerged in restarted areas.
You were close.
These outbreaks also came on a rolling basis. The plague would dissipate after running through a particular game region, only to reemerge once players, believing that the danger had passed, repopulated the area. After 1 week without finding a suitable remedy, Blizzard performed hard resets on the World of Warcraft servers, resetting Azeroth to its state from just before the introduction of corrupted blood. On October 8th, Blizzard released a patch for World of Warcraft that made pet companions immune to contracting corrupted blood. So, let's see how much more we have left. All right, we're not going to go into that. All right, I think we're good. I think we are good. Right? I don't really want to go into the impact that it had on other games. Well, let's read this. Let's read these two paragraphs. All right. So the impact on World of Warcraft and other games. While Blizzard had not intended to create a pandemic event with the corrupted blood incident, the company noted the popularity that the pandemic had received. In 2008, Blizzard released an intentional plague in World of Warcraft to echo the success of the corrupted blood pandemic. On October 22nd, shortly before the release of World of Warcraft expansion set titled Wrath of the Lich King, several mysterious crates appeared in one Azeroth town. Player characteristics who inspected these crates became infected with the unknown disease, and if they did not find a cure within 10 minutes, they would be transformed into zombies. See, when you start to plan around it, it makes it a lot, it's not as exciting as how it was during the corrupted blood incident. Unlike corrupted blood, it was possible to cure the zombie infection through healing spells or NPC aid. As the number of infected characters grew, however, the time frame for healing became shorter and the virus became resistant to cleansing. Blizzard put a stop to the Lich King plague on October 28th after receiving complaints from players that the zombie infection was detracting from other parts of the game. All right, that's it. We're done with that. We are done with that. So there we have it. We all now know about the pandemic from 2008. The global virtual pandemic named Corrupted Blood, which affected hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands. All right? Major pandemic out there. Be careful where you travel. Be careful where you travel. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Bug Bite hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are forever lasting engineered to win. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can know every single time I go live or drop new content just for you. Like the video, share the video with somebody who finds it interesting. Maybe somebody who played World of Warcraft and was infected by the corrupted blood by Haykar. All right. Anyways, I look forward to talking to you again next week as we review another software bug. And we learn from that. We continue to get better, have a little bit of fun every now and then, because although we're engineered to win, we can have fun while we win. All right. Friends, families, followers, subscribers, whatever you consider yourself to be. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.